Are you trying to dominate your fantasy football league? Do you want so many championship rings it's impossible to sign autographs? Well, crack open a beer, pour yourself a glass of bourbon, and settle in, because you've come to the right place. Welcome to Hammercast.
Welcome to this special edition of the Dynasty Debate on the Hammercast Network. I am your host, Kevin Coleman. I'm here with my good friend, John Camacho, who comes on the debate show with us. John, thanks for coming on.
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Every Wednesday you can find us. We're here hanging out with you and giving some debates. Today's going to be a little different. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be re-ranking. John is going to be re-ranking the rookie running back class from 2020 last year. So we're going to be ranking that class, and we're going to be looking at it from a dynasty PPR perspective. So I know rankings get everybody hot and bothered out there, and you get all mad about, hey, that's my favorite running back. So we're just looking at this from a dynasty perspective, okay? And that's really what we're looking at it from. John's going to give his because we want to keep this short. I'm not going to go back and forth. I'm going to kind of comment on his running backs that he has. So we're going to start at the top first. We're going to work our way down. And so who do you have at the top here? Who do you have as your 101 re-ranking the 2020 running back class?
Yeah, this is crazy. And look, I'm a Florida Stater, but this is not a homer pick. This is Cam Akers here at number one here. And this is truly just the way I think the next 3 years are going to play out in the NFL and the running back position between the guys that are obviously going to be on this list. And look, I mean, very good player. I think Florida State really did him dirty a little bit as far as like where he could have maybe gone in the draft if he got a chance to really show his full potential. But really what sold it for me was his last 3 games. I mean, just by attempts, 21, 29, 15, 21, 28, and 18 attempts in the last 6 games, over 500 yards in a 6-game stretch. That does include the playoffs. So he finished strong, and what it showed me is that the Rams are willing to ride this guy. They're willing to run him in a similar way that they ran Todd Gurley a couple of years ago. That's what I think his ceiling is, and because I've seen Todd Gurley do it, I believe that Cam Akers can get to similar. That was my line of thinking. I'm saying, like, I've seen them run that offense with a Todd Gurley type. Cam Akers isn't Todd Gurley. It's not what I'm saying, but I think he can do similar things. Obviously, running back position is what it is. It's opportunity over everything for me. So for me, I look at the Rams as a team that's going to be really good, going to want to run first. I'll let you guys see you shaking your head a little bit.
I just think hey, listen, we're all about hot takes here in this season. I just based on personal belief, I like Cam, and I think that Cam, he can be a threat in the receiving game. So when you look at his college stats, his junior year, yeah, you can't look at that anymore. Like, that Florida State team was a mess. The offensive line was a mess. But his junior year, he still caught 30 balls for 225 yards. So, yeah. And with Stafford, I think that is an improvement. So when we think of like where we're at over Goff, I think Stafford will bring him a little bit more in that receiving game. I think Malcolm Brown leaves and Darrell Henderson is there, but Cam is the guy. So I like the Cam call. I think I like a little bit more guys. I want to see where you got to have next, because Cam is consistently, I think his ADP right now is in the 3rd round. In Superflex leagues, probably around there. So according to you, you're taking Cam first. If you're like in a league startup right now, that's your guy.
I'm really excited about Cam. Yeah, he is my guy. And look, that is, of all the because I'm gonna I base this on my opinion, what I think is gonna happen, and I don't really take anything else into account. But yeah, I understand this both. Part of it's just I believe Rams are going to be really good in the next couple of years. I believe they're going to be a run-first football team. And yeah, he's my guy. I kind of had to go for it. He's like the only dude on this list where I was like, man, he's going to be like, I'm eyeing him in every league I have pretty much. So yeah, that's just how I feel about him. Yeah.
All right. No, I mean, hey, I don't hate it. I just think when we're thinking of keepers in dynasty leagues, there's another guy that's been going first. I saw him go first as a first running back off the board that you hadn't mentioned. So I'm interested to see what you think of him. All right, well, then who is your number 2?
I got Jonathan Taylor, too.
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. Look, I feel like, last year at this time, we, first got started with Hammercast and everything. I was talking a lot about how, hey, it's going to be Marlon Mack and then Jonathan Taylor. Well, Marlon Mack gets hurt, and Jonathan Taylor still had a really slow start, but a very similar story to Cam Akers with that second half of his season was even higher highs, to be totally honest. My fear, and this is the only thing, let's first talk about the stats. Over 1,100 yards, got 36 receptions. Who had more receptions, him or Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Well, it's a trick question. They had the exact same amount of receptions, and he got 2 more yards off of it. So I mean, he's utilized like an RB1, should be treated like an RB1. I believe he is an RB1. My only question is, are the Colts going to go back to that running back by committee that they had when Marlon Mack was the guy? That I really haven't seen Frank Reich just say, hey, we're going to run one running back. He's going to be our dude, 20 attempts every game. I've seen the Rams do that in this realm, in this dynasty that they're in, or whatever you want to call it. I haven't seen the Colts do that with Frank Reich at the helm. So that's the only question mark. I think it's a fair one. But we know this dude. He's a baller. I mean, he's an awesome player. Yeah, I mean, that's the guy I thought you picked first. Now, we talked about this, like, this is what's so funny about when we talk about rankings and stuff. He was getting traded for second-round picks in the middle of the year. He wasn't doing well. And now, he went first in a startup I saw recently as the first running back off the board, as a Dynasty running back 1. That's impressive. I mean, hey, that takes some cojones there. I mean, it does. You believe in this guy. When you look at how he finished the year off, the Jacksonville game where he had 250 yards, that's kind of an outlier. But even in 16 weeks, he was a top 7 running back. He finished at 7. And I think he is underrated passing. There's a couple things that worry me about Jonathan Taylor, like you talked about. That offensive line with the retirement of their tackle, and then they're also going to have to rebuild it. So I think they're going to do that. Wentz, he worries me a little bit. I mean, I made the joke in the middle of the year that Wentz is like a pitcher who can't throw the first base when it comes to swing passes. It just seems like he can never make that dump off to his running backs. And that's scary, when we think of Jonathan Taylor and his ability. I love Taylor's upside. I just don't know where I have him in terms of this. So I don't hate him being second, to be honest, because when you're thinking of Jonathan Taylor and you think of that offense that he's in, do you trust Frank Reich? That's kind of the key. He's a frustrating dude. He is, he's trusted. I mean, Taylor should be getting 20, 25 carries a game. If he's not, and if he's doing that, I think he's your RB1. But if Frank Reich continues to do this, Naheem Hines is there. If they do bring him back, and then again, Mack's there. We got all these different guys. If Brad Mack comes back, who knows? I doubt he will. But I like it. I like that call. But Jonathan Taylor, for me, he's a top 5 dynasty running back overall for me. So I have him in that category. So where do you have your number 3? Who's your 3? Yeah. No, I like everything you said, by the way. I completely agree. And it was a close call between Cam Akers and Jonathan Taylor. It truly just came down to I have more questions about one guy. I have more like, oh, this could go the wrong way. Number 3, I have Deandre Swift, which I'll be honest, when I first put these names down, I had Deandre Swift a lot lower, and I thought he would be a lot lower. The more I thought about it, the more I'm like, man, they have 316 running back snaps going off the field with AP finally, moving on. He was able to produce a good bit, 114 carries, 521 yards. The 41 receptions for 357 yards is what you have to like. I think there's a chance where Deandre Swift could be the only real weapon that this team has. I feel nervous about putting him at 3 because there's questions about this. This team isn't going to be very good. And it's like, on the surface, would I rather have the players that are on a good team that I feel like are just as talented or very close, similarly graded as far as talent goes, usually, but I really could see Deandre Swift taking over this role completely. And a couple things I've heard from coaches and things, that's the other thing that just kind of bumped it up for me to put him at 3. Nervous about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I like DeAndre Swift. I liked him. I think the thing that worries me is what you hit on. It's not his talent. It's how bad that team's going to be, how bad that defense is going to be. Are they going to be thrown from behind? They got Jared Goff there at quarterback. We saw kind of where that value was there for your running backs. They're going to have to rebuild that offensive line. I think it's not a bad offensive line, but they got to definitely get in there a better system. I don't hate the pick. If Golladay comes back, they maybe could see Hawkinson in there, get a quality slot guy. I really like John Ross. I know I'm a John Ross truther out there, but I think they would actually fit that system pretty well. And I think Dan Campbell is going to hit people in the mouth, right? That's what he talks about. So they're going to give Swift the ball. I don't mind him at 3. I actually don't. And it just hurts my feelings because my favorite running back's not in your top 3. And it hurts my soul. I'm still a Dobbins truther. So I'm interested to see how far he fell here. But I like Swift. I think that, going into drafts, if you have him, you can even try to buy him right now. I mean, he's a candidate in there. I think you're going to have to pay a lot for Taylor. I'd rather take a little bit of a discount and take Swift. But that's kind of my opinion when I'm looking at dynasty values. So who is your number 4?
Man, I'm gonna keep hurting your feelings, man, and it hurts my feelings too. Dobbins was my number 1 running back coming out last year, so
don't do it.
Just to be totally fair, look, I don't see any reason why James Robinson won't be RB1 on that team. Okay. I don't see the Jaguars looking at all the other holes they have and going and say, hey, we need to get a top running back that compete with James Robinson. James Robinson was good. He was good through the air, on the ground. They obviously, it's a different team, completely different organization. It's a big question mark, but I kept looking at James Robinson. Again, I said I wrote these names down. James Robinson was at the bottom of the list, and I just kept looking at him like, I don't logically see why he won't be back in the same situation he was last year. And with the situation he was in, I'm putting him at 4, and I feel weird about it, but I do, because the 2 guys that I haven't mentioned yet, it bugs me a lot that they're not mentioned yet. But I went on based on how I see the next 2 or 3 years going.
Hey, listen, he had a historic year for an undrafted running back. I mean, when you look at what he finished with, he finished as a top 4 running back and all dynasty purposes. So I appreciated last year. He's my biggest sell, and I get what you're saying, and I understand 100% what you're saying there. And he's a sell for me for one reason, that I think that if you're not contending, you need to sell him, because I think he has a very short life. And I'm a big guy at draft capital. I'm a big draft capital guy. And he's an undrafted free agent. We don't see those guys. Can he be a huge outlier? Maybe. But I would rather not be I'm not taking that risk. And so for me, he's a sell. Now, as far as these rankings go, don't hate it because what he did last year, right? When you're looking at his numbers and what he put up, I mean, you can't hate on the guy there. I just think when we look at what he did, I think when they have a better team around there, they get more weapons, maybe his volume goes down. Are you concerned about that at all?
I think when they have a better team around him, I think if volume goes down, I thought he was really talented too. That's the other part. I didn't know about this kid coming out. Like, I didn't have James Robinson was not on my radar until week 1 of the season, right? Mm-hmm. And it was just awesome. Like watching him, like my film vision or just like my talent evaluation on the field in 2020 said James Robinson was really good. So, yeah, I am definitely nervous about, they're going to bring in other weapons. Are they going to change the system completely? Well, I've seen Urban Meyer have really good running backs in his backfields before. So it bothers me. It's definitely a concern. It's the one that I feel the worst about. Like this is the ranking I definitely feel the worst about. And I totally get the lifespan thing. But like I said, I always look just 2 to 3 years in the future. And it's like, I definitely think in 2021 that I feel good about him. And then 2022, I believe in the kid. I don't know. Maybe I'm a sucker for the story. I've always been a sucker for guys like Phil Lindsay and undrafted guys. So that might just be my personality. I lean towards those guys. I thought he was a great player. I think he'll continue to be a great player. And I think as the team gets better around him, he'll have more opportunity to succeed and more touchdown opportunity, things like that. So yeah, it concerns me for sure. But overall, I had to stick with it.
I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, he was one of the most consistent backs last year. I mean, when you look at what he did, he didn't have a game in PPR formats under 10 points. That's until the 2 games he missed. Now, against Baltimore, you saw he did have some catches, and he scored a touchdown in the air, or else he would have had a pretty bad game. That would have been his one game. I think one thing that's going for him is this running back class is not deep, and it's not the best running back class. So are they going to draft the guy later? Maybe. But who knows? The only thing I probably worry about with them is if they try to go get a free agent. That would be their one. I wouldn't necessarily worry about the running back draft capital. I would, in terms of the draft, I'm worried about them going to try to get a free agent. Could they maybe bring in like a Carson or someone like that? I don't think they would go that route if they already have James Robinson, but again, depending on price, right? That's what we're kind of talking about. But I don't hate that. No, 4 is all right. So, all right, who do you have at 5? Where's my boy going to fall?
J.K. Dobbins comes in at 5. Look, and again, you mentioned it. I love J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins was my number 1 running back coming in this year. When he went to the Ravens, it was a match made in heaven. J.K. Dobbins fits that scheme perfectly. And as an NFL football player on the Ravens, he's a great player. And if we were just ranking talented players and putting them in their best position, he'd be a lot higher on this list. Because I don't think there's a better fit of just skill set to scheme, right? I really don't think on this at all. But this is a running back by committee type of team. And I know that Mark Ingram isn't going to be around next year, but they'll bring somebody else in. I mean, they were giving the ball a lot to. I could see Justice Hill getting back in there, getting some opportunities as well. They were giving the ball a lot to. I'm losing his name, but they're number 2 down the stretch there. He finished the season with 134 carries, 805 yards. I think, 150 to 160 carries a year is what we're looking at with J.K. Dobbins. So that's that lack of ceiling. The other four guys I see having a ceiling of a top 5 runner, like at best case scenario, top 5 runner. J.K. Dobbins definitely has that if everyone gets hurt. But if the Ravens do what they want to do, they're spreading the ball around in the backfield. And that's the thing that bothers me the most. Fantasy relevant side guys.
Yeah, I mean, if Edwards goes, which I think he will, I think it helps. But you can't look past Lamar, right? Yeah. That Lamar and his rushing upside, it really does hurt him. If Lamar can become a better passer, I actually like what Dobbins can do. My favorite game for Dobbins, those of you that are watching and listening, is the Steelers game when he played in the first game, because that really showed his talent. He had 15 carries, 113 yards. He has receiving capabilities, but that was, again, at that time was I think it was a top 3 rushing defense, and it showed kind of what he could do. Mm-hmm. I like that against Cincinnati, obviously, but everybody killed Cincinnati this year. They were bad, but I think he was consistently there. Again, he finished at running back 31 in PPR format, so I understand the hesitation, and they like that committee backfield. So I don't hate it. JK is my guy. He's my running back 1 coming in like yours. I think, though, that he could be the biggest steal for you guys out there, because if you try to trade for him now, if a guy like me owns him, you ain't getting him for cheap. But if there are other guys out there that maybe could fall in love with this rookie class, he's a guy that I think any of these guys, maybe on the exception of James Robinson, but the other 4, I'm trading straight up for like Najee or Travis Etienne. So yeah. I would say go get Dobbins, because I think in that scheme he's going to be well. But it hurts me to see him that low, but I understand it from a football perspective and a fantasy perspective. It's one of those weird ones where Dobbins may be one of the best talented guys, but his fantasy value is weirder and drops. So I get it, but hey, come on, Dobbins, you and me, you are on my Mount Rushmore before the season started. You were my guy, so we gotta have a better year this year. All right, what do you got after Dobbins?
All right, and then CEH does come in at number 6. Look, this is obviously the last of the guys that are like we need to talk about. Then I'm gonna have 2 more guys that I want to mention real quick. But CEH, obviously, it's just opportunity. I believe in the talent. CEH was my number 2 running back coming into this year, or coming into the draft, and I just talent wise, and then in a fantasy thing, I thought he again hit the perfect situation for him. The biggest thing that bothered me was he wasn't utilized in the passing game as nearly as much as he should. CEH is a better pass catcher in every way than Jonathan Taylor. They shouldn't have the same amount of receptions. The teams were different. There was more passing opportunity for CEH, and he still didn't get more. That really bothers me. Look, the rushing was never going to be like you're happy with about 1,000 yards rushing. The other part of the thing that I like about CEH is he is going to be the RB1 on this team. Like he's going to be the clear cut. He's going to get 60 to 65% of the snaps. You're going to be happy with that. It's just at the end of the day, you think about the Chiefs are going to be for the next 5, 10, however long Mahomes is there and in elite status. They're going to be pushing the ball downfield. I do believe CH is a great component to that offense, and he's going to have big weeks every single year. He's going to have big weeks, in his prime at least. But I don't think he's going to be that consistent RB1 that I really thought he would be coming into last year. And it hurts me to say that now, but it makes sense. Just logically, it makes sense to where he's at. I still believe in the talent wholeheartedly, and it wouldn't surprise me a bit if he has this, awesome sophomore season where they utilize him a little bit more as an integral piece of that offense. But I can't realistically say that's going to happen. Yeah,
I mean, with CEH, I'm down on CEH more than most, but I was down before. So, I was never a guy in CEH, John knows, before the season started. I just didn't like the price he was going at. It was too valuable. Now, he's actually – I would like the value I'm getting him now. If I can grab him, now it's like, okay, I'll take it now. I think just CEH is someone who, when I watched and I saw film and tape, and I know all my tape guys out there and all my analytics guys, he's just someone that I think is a very average running back, which got popped up by his landing spot. So – which is fine. It can happen. But I don't think he necessarily does anything too good. He's very average. He can catch, yes, but so can those other guys. I think those other guys are better pure runners than CEH. I think CEH is just who he is, who got propped up a little bit too much. I don't hate the price right now. But again, also that Kansas City offense. The fact that Damian Williams might come back and people are talking about that as being a legitimate thing, that concerns me. They did bring in Le'Veon Bell. That concerns me. They obviously are seeing something with CH maybe they shouldn't have grabbed, right? Imagine Swift in that offense. For me, that'd be oh my gosh, would it have? CH doesn't move that barometer for me. But I understand, like, yeah, I'm not, CH is like your Dobbins to me. For when I look at that, I'm staying away from CH completely. I don't own anything. I don't have anything with CH just because I think that offense doesn't lend itself. He's not Hunt. He's Hunt light. And I don't think he can ever get that production that you would like to see. That's my opinion. So you can argue with that if you'd like, but that's kind of how I feel about CEH.
I get it. I argue on the talent side. We fundamentally disagree. I don't think he's an average running back, just from a talent standpoint. I never thought that. So that's just okay. I thought he was a great running back that hit the perfect system. Yeah, look, I was sitting there thinking that they were going to take Swift at 32 overall, even though I did have CEH higher than Swift, but it was all close. All those top 5 running backs, they were all ranked very close for me. So it's not like we're splitting hairs there. Different style of running back than the other 4, but I get what you're saying. I 100% understand everything you just said, but I that's the only part that I would disagree with. Let's move on to the last 2 guys that I mention. And this one is just a gut feeling. This is just me reading between the tea leaves a little bit. You like that, reading between the tea leaves? I got AJ Dillon here at number 7. And first of all, I love the talent coming out. He was like in that tier 2 running backs for me. We're talking about a guy who was drafted 7 picks after J.K. Dobbins, our unanimous RB1 coming into that draft. So definitely has some talent. I think definitely tier down. But I don't think the Packers are going to pay AJ or Aaron Jones, and I do believe that AJ Dillon is going to get a really good opportunity to be the guy in Green Bay. Now, it's always going to be a split backfield. It's always going to be annoying, just like it was annoying owning Aaron Jones the past 2 years with Williams coming in every other snap. But I do think there's some significant upside to an AJ Dillon.
Okay, yeah, I mean, again, Dillon for me is just kind of Dillon. I think there's upside, 100%. I think they might bring in somebody though. Like they might draft somebody like a late round. I saw in a mock recently Chuba Hubbard went there like in the 5th, and that would scare the hell out of me if I was a Dillon owner because I think those 2 guys could complement very well as an NFL duo. But then like, when you're thinking like, crap, well now fantasy purposes. But no, I don't hate it. I think that Dillon we still are yet to see. Right? It's one of those guys that like, hey. What are we going to see with this kid? But I don't hate him being after 6. Like that's fine. Yeah. That's good.
These are just like, hey, don't forget these names. That's kind of what I'm doing here. Is like, don't forget these guys. I think AJ Dillon's a really interesting buy, especially right now with Jones still being on that roster and everything. It's like nobody's thinking about AJ Dillon right now. And I was just going through the draft and realized, oh yeah, he was the 6th running back taken off the board. Oh yeah, I did like him coming out. Oh yeah, he's on a team that ran the ball really well last year. So there's certain things to like about him, but I definitely get what you're saying there. Last one for me is a guy who I saw pop a handful of times, Anthony Mcfarlane on the Steelers. Look, I don't know what the Steelers are going to do with the running back position. Felt like all year they kept wanting to go Snug or the guy out of Kentucky. I'm blanking on his name right now. Wasn't huge on him coming out, and he was just average. I thought Anthony McFarland was electric when he got his opportunities. I see a world where he gets a chance to be the starter for the Steelers this year.
Okay. Yeah, I think whatever, right? At this point, you're just trying to crapshoot. Hey, do you see this guy? I don't mind McFarland. And I think if anybody on that roster, he has the best shot. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel. Benny Snell is not the answer. If you Snell truthers out there make me laugh. It is a weird island to be on, you Snell guys. Snell's not my guy, but if McFarland could, I think there is. I had John Bauer on recently. He's a Steelers fan. He was talking about that. Like, it's not a guarantee that they draft a running back. It's not.
To me, that's the biggest misconception to me is people saying that the Steelers are going to draft a running back. It's like they have so many needs on the offensive line, and they always take a running back late. They might draft a running back, but he's not a guy that like you're it's going to be a 4th, 5th round guy. I think. I don't think they take a running back first 2. I don't think it'll be one of the elite names that everyone's talking about right now.
It possibly couldn't be, right? And so when you talk about draft capital, it's one of those things. We think of draft capital, well, that draft capital is probably not going to be there. So those are the things that I think of. No, I like your list, man. I think you did a good job. Cam being there, I love it. Spicy takes is what we're here for. We're a barbecue type restaurant or website as well. Taylor in there, Swift. I think that if I had to look at mine, and again, I haven't necessarily done this very quickly, but if I had to go through some, I'd probably have Taylor at my 1. I think Swift and Cam are very close, and I'd probably have Dobbins. But that's probably the only differences I see a little ahead of James Robinson. but no, I think you did well. And again, we're just kind of here talking about it. Let us know in the comments below. What do you guys think if you're watching on YouTube? What do we think there? What do you think? Where are your rankings? We'd love to hear them and give us your rankings down there. And we'll come back to this in a year and see who is the bigger idiot, me or John. That's kind of what we're here for. And we're just going to look and see, hey, how does this work and where does this come from? So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hey, be sure to check out John Between the Pylons, his YouTube channel. He does great work for us. He's he's got his own show coming. Can you believe it? We actually gave this dude his own show. I don't know what we were thinking. So look for Camacho's Corner out there and be on the lookout. So thank everybody for coming in. And John, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, buddy.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to hammercast.com, subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next time, keep grinding.